everybody, and welcome back to the United Stand. I am Beth, and you are joining me tonight for our 8 p.m. show on a Thursday night. 8 p.m. show yesterday, 8 p.m. show today. Kev's away, Goldbridge is away. I'm the only one keeping the United Stand going at the moment, so thank you for joining me. Hopefully you'll stay with us for the show tonight as we talk Jarrad Branthwaite, the blow to Manchester United's top transfer target. Ben Jacobs said Elise and Brathwaite are the two targets that are 100% signed off. There is a blow for Manchester United as they could be out of the Jarrad Branthwaite race. I mean, they could go and spend the money on him, but it'd be a shed loads of money of our transfer budget. Should we push and pay the money for Jarrad Branthwaite? Is he worth it? Going to be talking about that. Also, Manchester United prioritising positions on a strict budget. Yes, we want Elise, but he's not a priority position for Manchester United. The priority positions are the centre-backs, the midfielder and the striker. How do we make this work? Who could we go for based on the budget that we have? Interesting midfield target coming out, and also the money on the striker as well. And will we sign one centre-back? Will we sign two centre-backs? That's the question I have for you guys tonight. But welcome everybody to the Thursday night show. As you can see right now, I mean, first and foremost, I'm going to get a poll running. Jarrad Branthwaite, 75 million sterling is what Everton want for him. Should Manchester United pay that? The question is, if you want the player, if he fits the system, should you just pay the money, or should Manchester United look at other options when you consider the amount of centre-backs we are linked to? And as well, the centre-back market, by the way, at the minute is lively. It's looking good. There's some good options out there. So should Manchester United do it? Get your votes down in the poll. But tonight's show is sponsored by the lovely BoohooMan. As you can see, it's not only men that can wear BoohooMan, it's also women too. I am rocking this hoodie here and I'm absolutely loving it, genuinely. I was looking through the BoohooMan stuff and I was thinking, do you know what, there's a few things in there that I'd quite like, because I really like an oversized hoodie. And this BoohooMan's hoodie today it's really comfy, it's really stylish if I do say so myself, and I think it looks really good. So we are sponsored by BoohooMan. Today's show is brought to you by BoohooMan, and BoohooMan very, very kindly are offering you, the United Stand viewers, an extra 10% off their site-wide 40% discount. So an extra 10% off 40% site-wide with the code Goldbridge. So make sure you use Goldbridge at your checkout to get an extra 10% off 40% site-wide. If you just click the link in the description or click the barcode, you can go and shop. There's so many different items there. If you're looking for your holidays, if you're looking for some tracksuits, if you're in the UK weather, if you're looking for some nice sets, some airport outfits as well. There's so much variety on the website and you can go and get your stuff. Also workout clothes, I've been eyeing some of them up. So make sure you get onto that and go and look at their sale. It's really, really good. And you get an extra 10% with the code Goldbridge as well. And of course, it wouldn't be a BoohooMan integration if they didn't provide us with a little bit of trivia. Usually I'm the one watching this trivia and I'm trying to guess, but today I am in the hot seat, I'm the quiz master, I'm the one asking the question, so get all of your answers in down below. So the BoohooMan promo always comes with a little bit of trivia, so can you guess the Manchester United player that I am talking about? I was born on August 7th in 1992. I started my career at an Eredivisie club. I have played 21 games for the Netherlands, scoring 5 goals. Can you guess it? Can you guess it? Everyone always says Nani in the chat. It's not Nani. It's not Nani. I have played for a Premier League club in 2022, but later went on loan to Besiktas. I was on loan at Manchester United and I was part of the team that won the Carabao Cup, and I spent this year on loan at Hoffenheim. Can you get it in the chat? Of course, of course, of course. The Weghorst, the Wout Weghorst, the GOAT of the United Stand, Wout Weghorst is coming in the chat. Wout Weghorst, cult hero, came in, barely scored any goals for us, won a Carabao Cup, did a job. Wout Weghorst is the answer. So look, if you want to get some nice stuff like me, make sure you go, click the link in the description, click the barcode, code Goldbridge, and you get an extra 10% off a 40% site-wide sale. So thank you very much to BoohooMan for sponsoring the show. And let's move on with the show. Jarrad Branthwaite, everyone. Jarrad Branthwaite, what are your opinions down in the comments? 75 million for Jarrad Branthwaite. I'm going to get my vote in. And my vote is a very hard-hitting absolutely not. and I'm a fan of Jarrad Branthwaite, but absolutely not a chance I would spend 75 million of our budget this summer. We had Ben Jacobs on the show literally this afternoon, a brilliant show, by the way, fantastic interview if you want to check that out after you've stayed with us for our 8 p.m. show. And Ben Jacobs was literally saying that Manchester United, in terms of cash, could have as little as like 60 million to spend. Of course, we're going to spend more than that in terms of outgoings, and we might go a little bit over budget, and we are going to sell players. But Manchester United, initially at the start of the transfer window, are not going to have that much money to play with. They're not, unless they want to go over budget very early doors. And we've got to sell players as well. So for me, basically spending our whole amount of our initial budget on a player that's 75 million just isn't feasible for me. He's 21, predominantly left-footed, can play both sides, Premier League proven, English, obviously going to the Euros with England, and you'd like to think he's going to make the full 26-man squad. But for me personally, when you've got options like Todibo out there, when you've got other options that you could get a little bit cheaper, I wouldn't be predominantly going spending all of our transfer budget on him. I know Todibo's a right-sided centre-back and Brathwaite is predominantly a left-sided centre-back, so they are kind of different positions. But with the tight budget Manchester United are on, as much as I like him, I would be paying on Brathwaite 60 million max. And that's max, and I don't even really want to pay that. If Man United, you know, it got announced, here we go, Manchester United are doing a deal for Jarrad Branthwaite, and it came up with 60 million, I won't be sat here going, oh, we should not have paid that, because at the end of the day, he is 21 years old and he's got a very, very high ceiling. But when you get into the 65, 70, 75 million mark, one, it puts a lot of pressure on the signing to do well. Like, remember the last time we spent 80 million on an English centre-back? And I do think Jarrad Branthwaite has a high ceiling. He's got a lot of potential. He's a quality player, but it puts a lot of pressure on a 21-year-old's back. And second of all, he's predominantly left-sided. So is he benching Lisandro Martinez? No, he's not. So I don't understand how that would particularly work, to be honest with you, because you don't go out and spend that sort of money on someone to bench Lisandro Martinez, but also people will say he can play on the right side. Why would you go and buy a predominantly left-footed player to play on the right side? I know he can do it, but that's not where you'd spend the money. So get in your comments down below. Currently the poll is on, wow, this is an absolute landslide. 89% say no and 11% say yes for Jarrad Branthwaite. Again, that just shows that all you guys are thinking straight and you've got your head screwed on and you know where Manchester United's priorities are this summer. Branthwaite's a good player, it's not a slight on him, but it's just not where we should be spending our full transfer budget. But here's the exact quotes coming out from Rob Dawson. Keep getting your comments in, keep getting your super chats in. Going to be going through them with you guys, the community, on tonight's show. Jarrad Branthwaite is a summer transfer target for Manchester United, but Everton's asking price is around 75 million and it could be a stumbling block. United are looking to add at least one centre-back to their squad during the summer window. I mean, earlier on in the year, we were told there was going to be a whole defensive overhaul and we'd be signing 2 centre-backs. Now it looks like it's slowly moving towards 1 centre-back. I think United should sign 2. Keep an eye on Tosin. Obviously, Tosin is somebody that is going to be on a free transfer from Fulham. Newcastle are in that race, but so are Manchester United, as Ben Jacobs told us this afternoon. So that could be someone that we sweep up on a free transfer, English centre-back as well. We know Dan Ashworth. We know he loves the English. We know he loves the English, honestly. So it's like when you go abroad and, you know, you've got the English accent and people are like, oh, you know, they like the accent. That's what Dan Ashworth's like, you know, looking at all the English talent that he can go for. We know we like the English. That's why Jarrad Branthwaite is very well liked. We've told that we want a British core. Tosin is also English, so he could be one on the horizon as well. So that'd be interesting. But in terms of where we're going to spend our money on a centre-back, for me, it has to be a right-sided centre-back. It just has to be. And Rob Dawson goes on to say Manchester United would ideally like a right-sided centre-back to replace Varane and a left-sided centre-back to act as cover for Lisandro Martinez. But with Everton's asking price for Brathwaite, who is left-footed, that could convince the recruitment team to focus on signing a right-footed player instead. So basically what we've been saying for the last day and a half on the United stand, and I've been talking with you guys about it. On saying the fact that what Manchester United need to do is an absolute priority is go out there and when they go and buy a centre-back, if we are on a limited budget, go and spend the money on someone who is basically a Varane. And I know that's hard to find, and you're not going to tick every single box, but what I mean by that is somebody who fits the same attributes as what Varane has, because that's what complements Lisandro Martinez. We bought Lisandro Martinez for 60 million to be our left-sided centre-back for the future. Yes, he's been very unlucky with injuries, and we touch wood and touch everything, and we hope that that's not going to happen again and he's going to be able to stay fit. Across Lisandro Martinez's career, he's not been injury-prone. Since he came to United, he's been very unlucky with injuries, and we hope that it's just been unfortunate timing for him. He's 25 years old, moving to the next stage of his career, acts like a captain. I mean, the way he, when Garnacho was giving it to the City fans, showing the badge, which, by the way, I love that. I love that passion from Garnacho. But Martinez, he's in a cup final. He gets his arm around Garnacho. He apologises to the City fans and he says, just get on with it. The game isn't won yet. And he looks like a captain's material. He leads that back line. I mean, I was at Wembley and I'm being deadly serious. It wasn't computing in my brain how you've got Erling Haaland, who's basically like a giant of a man, getting bullied by a 5'10" centre-half, 5'9", 5'10" centre-half. Martinez would just come out of nowhere from behind him and Haaland would be on the floor and I'd be like, how does that happen? So, the strengths that Martinez has when he's at the top of his game, he's our left-sided centre-back. So I'm not then looking to spend 75, could even reach to 80 million on somebody to play his position. I just don't think that makes sense. What we should be focusing on is getting someone, a right-sided centre-back, right-footed, who can play next to Lisandro Martinez and be his partner for the foreseeable future. But get down in the comments what you think. Todibo and Yoro. Yoro's a really interesting one, by the way. Yoro's a really interesting one from Lille because, for me, he genuinely looks like he could be like the next Varane. I think he's 19 years old, he's incredibly talented, amazing on the ball, physically capable, aerially good. He's got everything to his game. It looks like Real Madrid are going to get in there. But if Man United can somehow get a hold onto that and compete in that deal, he'd be someone that I'd massively, massively be into as well. Todibo, again, another one that we're going to talk about in a second. So we've got some super chats already coming in. Thank you, everyone, for your contributions. Keep them coming. Terence Roberts says, United shopping at Lidl while others are shopping at M&S then. Hey, do not slander Lidl. Because you know what? It has a top-tier bakery. It has a top-tier bakery. Everyone's got his different strengths. Lidl has a top-tier bakery, don't slander it, but I understand where you're coming from. With Man United, the fact of the matter is we are going to have to be tactful in the transfer window. We don't have all the money in the world to spend. We have a lot more budget than people are making out. We are going to sell players. We probably will go over budget like we do every single summer. We are going to spend, we're going to get a centre-back, we're going to get a midfielder, we're going to get a striker, we're probably going to buy a lease and we're probably going to buy a left-back. That's already 5 signings. There is going to be outgoings. And then if you wanted to add another centre-back onto that, that'd be 6. I think that's stretching it. I think we'll sign 5 players this summer window, and that's why I think we'll only get 1 centre-back unless we manage to get Tosin in on a free, potentially. Or you never know, a Chalobah for 25 million, that's what he's valued at. That could be one that we look for as well, a cheap alternative. So, yeah, Man United are on a bit of a budget, but that doesn't mean that you can't get something that's a bang for your buck. You're talking about Lidl compared to M&S. You could go to Lidl Bakery, get a top-tier pain au chocolat. I could go to M&S. Okay, yeah, it's meant to be more prestigious. By the way, I love M&S. Just saying, I love M&S. I'm not hating on M&S. I'm really not. Just putting that out there. Anyone from M&S who's watching. But you could go and get a top-tier pain au chocolat from Lidl, and then you go to M&S and it's, not the best batch. It's not been cooked right. So, don't judge a book by its cover is what I would say from that. Man United have got to find these smart deals. Cedric Hughes says, which striker should we sign to replace Anthony Martial? You guys are going to be sick of me, but you know how much I want Ivan Toney, and I'll comment on that in a second. I've got that to bring in a little bit later onto the show. AC Tracy for Super Chat, thank you very much. 75 million is scandalous for Brathwaite, another example of the price of English players being inflated. Could possibly get both Todibo and a left-back like Curtis for the same price. Great Super Chat there, AC Tracy. And by the way, I think you're spot on. I think Brathwaite is talented. But, there's been a lot of talk about Man United focusing on English players, Premier League proven players. Premier League proven, I understand it, but with English players comes British tax. And you could get players that are of immense quality, but they don't have an English passport and they're a lot cheaper. You can do that. You can do that. And I think, a prime example of that is you look at Declan Rice. He is obviously unreal. He's a super talented footballer. He's amazing for Arsenal. I think it's someone that I would have liked Manchester United to go for. But how much did he cost Arsenal? Around 100 million quid. You've got someone like Paulina at Fulham, who I think's a brilliant centre defensive midfielder as well. But his price probably wouldn't be anywhere near the likes of Declan Rice. I understand he's a little bit older, but you can get gems. You can get gems here and there that, okay, maybe it might be not exactly what you want, but it fits more into your budget, and sometimes you've got to kind of take them things into consideration. Mario Franco says, that De Zerbi clause worries me. Who paid for it? I'm not sure on De Zerbi, because there was a lot of news coming out from Italy that he'd, made an agreement with another club, but we've not heard anything part of that. I had Ben Jacobs on the show today, and he said the 3 manager targets, if Ten Hag did go, would be Tuchel, Pochettino and Potter, and De Zerbi didn't even come up, and Ben's very well informed. So I wouldn't read too much into De Zerbi at the minute. Ejinka says we could rather get Todibo and Chalobah and a midfielder like Fofana/Dewsbury Hall for a little bit more than 75 million. It's actually some smart business there. Shashin Murphy says don't want another Maguire debacle. Nick P says is it Nani? And James Holland says Maguire plus 40 million for Brathwaite, 40 million for Todibo, centre back set for years to come. I mean, James, if only it was that simple, because I just want to talk a slight bit more on the Brathwaite thing, and got another super chat in from SK. Says, content for your channel, Beth, rate my bakery with Beth Tucker. Who wants rate my bakery with Beth Tucker? I do love a good food review. I do love a good mukbang. I could get one of them mics and everything, do a little bit ASMR. Let me know in the comments if that's something you'd want. But back to football. I mean, I do compare players to food and drink quite often. I don't know where that comes from. I got a coffee from McDonald's on my way back from Wembley, and it was really watery and it weren't that great, and I said, this coffee reminds me of Kevin De Bruyne's performance today for Manchester City. Hooked in another cup final. Bruno could never. But anyway, yeah, talking about the centre-back situation, Todibo and Brathwaite are the top options, let's be honest. Todibo, we have to go and get him right-sided centre-back. I think aerially might need to improve a little bit, which does worry me slightly with Lisandro Martinez. I know Martinez is good in the air, but he is a shorter centre-back and there's no hiding from that. But I still think Martinez obviously is our left-sided centre-back. I've hailed him. He's the one I want to be playing. So you're getting the likes of the Todibo, covers the right channel really well, great on the ball, aggressive, that could work. You'll have people on Twitter saying, Brathwaite, get Brathwaite because he can play right-sided and left-sided. If you're playing a possession-based football, you don't go and spend £75 million on a predominantly left-footed, left-sided centre-back to play on the right side. You just don't. It's like saying, well, Marcus Rashford can play on the right wing for Manchester United. Yeah, he can play on the right wing, but it's not his expertise. He's a left winger. He can play there. Of course he can. If Manchester United bought Brathwaite and they bought Todibo, and part of the season, Todibo got injured and you had to play Brathwaite and Martinez together, like that would happen and they'd probably do a decent job. But it's not, if you're spending that sort of money, you don't do that. Do you know what I mean? You buy Brathwaite to be a left-sided centre-back. So my idea was you'd have Martinez and Brathwaite as your left-siders, and then you'd have Todibo and, potentially a Maguire, because I think Maguire might stay, even though I'd love to sell him to Everton, but I think it gets sticky with the wages involved and everything like that. So that's where you'd have it. You'd have, your Todibo as your right-sided centre-back, or potentially, you never know who else could be on Manchester United's radar. You look at Chalobah as well. He's another one that's been talked about. Get your opinions in on that. And you'd have that depth. But Manchester United, with the budget we're on and the amount of players we are looking for and we're going to go for, we're going to need to cut some corners. Does that mean you only go and get one centre-back, a right-footed centre-back, and then potentially get tossing in on a free, and then you have Luke Shaw covering as your left-sided centre-back backup? Because, if Luke Shaw can stay fit, left-sided centre-back isn't as physically demanding as being a left-back. That could be some good cover there for Lisandro Martinez, it really could. The only thing that's worrying about that is, this season, how many games of Lisandro Martinez and Luke Shaw combined missed for Manchester United? You do start to worry about injuries. You'd like to think Lisandro Martinez's injury situation is just a one-off, but you've got to be wary about these sort of things. So get in the comments what you think. Chris Gray says, I actually quite like Chalobah, to be honest. Chalobah. He's been picked by every manager that comes into Chelsea. I think Lampard picked him, Pochettino picked him. Who was the manager before that? Potter picked him, I think, for a short time. Like, Chalobah has been well liked at Chelsea, and he has done a decent job for him, and he's played in a lot of the games for Chelsea this season where they've actually looked decent, because Chelsea obviously have been on and off. I think he's a decent player. He's a decent player. He fits the English quota. He's still relatively young. But for me, it's like we're going for someone again who Chelsea are, you know, kind of trying to get rid of. Do you go down that route? I think as a squad centre-back, he would be decent. It would just depend on the price and depend on the wages. But I don't think his wages are too high. If it is 25 million for the quality of play you are getting, that could be a decent move for Manchester United. It really could be. So interesting on Chalobah to see how that develops, because Chelsea do definitely want to get rid of him. And they don't want to get rid of him because they don't think he's good enough, by the way. That's not why. So people in the comments saying, you know, Chelsea reject, that's not the case. They're not getting rid of him because they don't think he's good enough. They want to get rid of him to earn some money because Chelsea have massively overspent and they need to comply with the financial fair play regulations. That's why they're trying to get rid of Gallagher as well. Pochettino, a reason why they've left by Pochettino's leaving Chelsea is because he had a different vision to the board. That's a well-known reason why Pochettino's left. Pochettino wanted to keep Gallagher and he also wanted to keep Chalobah. And the Chelsea board want to get rid of both them players. They want to get rid of the captain in Gallagher and they want to get rid of Chalobah, who's homegrown, come through the academy, because guess what? It's pure profit and they need to raise money. Pochettino didn't want that. Pochettino gave Gallagher the captain's armband. Pochettino played Chalobah a lot. So they're not getting rid of these players because they're not good. They're not getting rid of Chalobah because he's not good enough. So people saying not good enough for Chelsea, not good enough for United, that's not true. He was starting for Chelsea. It's because they need to raise money. But one, do we want to help Chelsea again by giving him money? And for two, is he the right profile to bring into Manchester United? I mean, he can play right back as well. It's something to think about. It's something to think about for sure. Some comments in saying give Everton 30 million plus Maguire. See, people say that, and in hindsight, it'd be great. But first of all, Maguire would want to go, and I don't think he would want to go there. I mean, Ben Jacobs was talking on the show earlier that Bayern Munich could be interested in Harry Maguire. I mean, that'd be a good move for him if he could get that. Not sure how concrete that was. I know he said it was a Tuchel. It was a Tuchel target. Tuchel target. I mean, Tuchel coming to Man United, there's already some alarm bells going off. Rates Maguire because he wanted to bring him to Bayern Munich. Has spoken very highly about Rashford in the past. Like, you know, if Tuchel comes into Manchester United, you're looking at the squad and you're thinking Tuchel's probably going to say to Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe, because he massively wants the job, if Ten Hag does go, I can get the best out of Rashford, I'm going to play Maguire, so you won't have to get me a centre-back there, I like this player, I like that player. That's another thing to think about when it comes to Tuchel. But yeah, it won't be as easy as that. Maguire's on some big wages. Would he want to step down to Everton? He didn't even want to go to West Ham last season, and I think West Ham are in a better position than Everton. So as much as that would be a nice move, I don't think we'd be able to get it over the line. So as much as I do like Jarrad Branthwaite, and I think it'd be a good signing, for 75 million British pounds, there's absolutely no way on this earth that I would be making that deal happen. I wouldn't be. So the poll, 12% say yes, 88% say no. I think that really obviously speaks for itself on that. Rob Dawson did mention in his article as well that Manchester United are keeping tabs on Lille centre-back Yeni Yoro. Yoro, for me, like I said, ticks every box. Ticks every box for Manchester United. I mean, the type of player you're getting there is someone with absolutely massive potential. Absolutely massive potential. But it looks like Real Madrid are all over that deal. And if you know, Man United going against Real Madrid right now, you just can't compete with them. You honestly just can't compete with them. One's in a Champions League final, you know, also signing Mbappe. He's got a team full of superstars. And the other one is, you know, finished 8th in the Premier League. Yeah, we are a big club and we've got the Premier League to offer. But we're in the Europa League, we're not even in the Champions League. And it's not as if Real Madrid are the likes of, you know, it's not as if Real Madrid are a Manchester City where they don't have much history. They don't have, you know, much history for a player to kind of look at. Real Madrid have tons of history. They're a massive club. They're a very attractive club. So we're not going to be able to tempt him away from Real Madrid if Real Madrid do go for that. But if Real Madrid don't, then that's someone that I would be all over, and I would definitely be looking into that deal. I'm just going to quickly look at his age. Last time I looked, I swear he's like 90. He's 18 years old. Yoro's 18 years old. Do you know how mental that is? Like, the amount of potential and talent he has at 18 years old. You've got a centre-back then who in 10 years' time is still only 28. Like, it's crazy. Obviously, there'd be a little bit of concern of how quick he'd be able to adapt to the Premier League. It's a lot of pressure to put on an 18-year-old, being asked to come in and being the starting centre-back for Manchester United, because that's what you'd want him to be. But it is definitely someone that Manchester United should be looking at. And apparently Lille want about 80 million for him. So, again, Man United, if we're not going to pay 75 million for Brathwaite, we're certainly not going to be able to pay 80 million for Yoro. So I would rule that one out, but he's definitely a talent. But then again, I would put out there, if Man United were looking to pay 75 million for Brathwaite, why would we not be looking to pay a high fee for Yoro, who's another outstanding talent? So get in the comments down below what you think. But I think both Brathwaite and Yoro will be ruled out for different reasons. One, because of Real Madrid, and two, because of the price tag that Everton put on Brathwaite. But again, the one thing I would say is Everton are going to be leaking the price of Brathwaite to be high because they're desperate for money and they want a big price for him. But they're going to have to sell. Everton are going to have to sell. There's reports about them maybe selling Pickford, who has been their player of the year for the last 3 seasons and is a cult hero at Everton. They need to sell because they need to raise money. You know, Man United leave it late on Brathwaite and kind of try and drive the price down. We might be able to get a much better fee, but like I said, anything over 60 million and I'm walking away from that deal. Dave Garden says, why shop in an expensive league with a small budget? Why can't we look at smaller leagues with hidden gems and let scouts do their jobs? And honestly, I think it's because we've not really managed to get a recruitment team in working properly yet, because obviously Sergeant Ratcliffe and Ineos have only just got their foot in the door and starting to get things sorted. Dan Ashworth's not even been able to come in yet. Jason Wilcox is obviously in now. I think if you look at future Ineos windows, we are going to be looking more of the down the road of scouting in different leagues and scouting young talents and scouting young English talents as well, early doors. That's something that's reported that they want to do, but obviously we can't just walk in and do that straight away. Terence Roberts says, so many positions required with little equity, Beth. Exactly. You know, it's like buying a new house and you need furniture, you need garden furniture, you need your windows fixed, you need your roof doing, and you're on a very, 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 very small budget. You've got to cut corners here and there. You've got to prioritise, and that's what Manchester United need to do. Sachin Murphy says, the great United stand bake-off, let's go. Oh my gosh, how unreal would that be, by the way? A great United stand bake-off. So you've got baking with Beth, you've got cooking with Goldbridge. You know, Kev, I don't know, Kev would make something alcoholic, probably like a tiramisu with, what's got alcohol in it? That's a dessert. Or he'd make something to go with like a red wine or something like that. What would I make on a bake-off? I would absolutely blow everyone out the water. I would love that. Do you know when Mark does like his all-day charity streams and we raise so much money for charity, which is amazing, by the way, what Mark does in terms of the charity work that the money he raises. I'm going to put forward the idea for a segment of that to be the Great United Stand Bake-Off. I think that would be absolutely unreal. Would be absolutely unreal, and I reckon I'd be able to win it. So thank you for that suggestion. I love that suggestion. Great United Stand Bake-Off, get in the comments. Would you want it? What should I make as well? What should I make? Everyone in the chat talking. I mean, Christmas pudding, is that because of the alcohol? I mean, we're in summer. I don't want to be thinking about Christmas. Get to Debo and get tossing. We've got Lee Berman says you should do a come dine with me. Oh, how good would a come dine with me be? We need a whole production team. Anybody watching who wants to produce a come dine with me with the United Stand cast, please get in touch, because I would absolutely love it. Imagine the discussions around the dinner table, by the way. Imagine the football debate that you'd be able to capture. Imagine going round to Ricky's house. He'd get everyone round. Instead of a dining room table, it'd be just, you know, a little table on the couch with where you put your food, and it'd be a big screen, and he'd have his stick out, and he'd be pointing at the football and all of the analysis he'd done, and instead of conversation around the dinner table, you'd be on the couch and Ricky would be giving you a lesson in football. It'd be unreal. We need to get that sorted out. Jack Clancy says, I guarantee Everton doubled the price the moment they learned United wanted him because they know that we are stupid and we will pay and get when we can get a better player for 40 million. Jack Clancy, it's interesting, isn't it? You know, if, for example, the likes of a West Ham came in for a Jarrad Branthwaite, it'd be interesting to see what price tag Everton are go to. Because do you remember when we wanted Kieran Trippier from Atletico Madrid and Atletico Madrid said something stupid like 30 million, and then I think Newcastle ended up getting him for something like 18, 19 million as soon as Newcastle came in. It's just United tax, and that's something we really need to get a handle on. And Ineos, the last thing Ineos should do in their first window is overpay for a player. I know there's players that people want, but the last thing we should do is overpay. You know, with Todibo, you're definitely not going to overpay because Sir Jim, you're basically buying off yourself because he has, you know, he owns Manchester United. We've got to do a market value deal, but you just won't overpay for that deal. So that's the deal that could get done. The last thing you want to do is overpay, because then as soon as you do that, everybody knows United are still that club that are going to overpay. We lay down the law and we say this summer, actually, no, we're walking away from this deal, and we'll actually get a little bit of respect off other clubs, and in future negotiations we'll be able to deal with it better. If you watch the City documentary, which I know nobody does because it's, you know, it's not really got much hype. Do you remember the Treble documentary that came out on Netflix? Genuinely, I think it got hype for about an hour. If United won a treble and there was a documentary on Netflix, you know, it'd be like the most viewed thing, you know, since Baby Reindeer. That was something that was really well viewed, weren't it? So, yeah, well, anyway, get back to my point. If you watch the City documentary, there's a clip of Omar Barada. And I've seen the clip of Omar Barada. And, you know, United and City have been in on the same deals before. City really did actually want Harry Maguire. And they were in on that deal. They wanted that deal to happen. But Leicester put 80 million on Harry Maguire, and City were like, no, we're not paying that. It's over our budget. They walked away. They're not afraid to walk away. They look at two things, whether it's economically viable and whether the talent is the talent that they want, and that's viable. So if two of them things don't align, they don't go for it. They wanted Harry Maguire at the time because of his talent. He didn't line up economically, so they walked away from that deal. So that's the way that Omar Barada dealt with it when he was at Manchester City, and hopefully with him coming into Manchester United, he'll employ that tactic as well. So, you know, as much as we want the João Neves, as much as we want, you know, the players that are extremely talented, if we can't afford them and clubs are trying to pull our pants down for that, for the talent that we want, we're not going to just pay it like we did with Anthony, like we've done with Maguire, like we've done with other players in the past. We will actually say, look, we're actually not going to pay that because it's out of our budget and we don't think it's worth it. We're going to walk away. And United will get a lot more respect doing that. Terence Roberts says, Ricky making a Lancashire hot pot live. I think Ricky would make a curry, you know. Ricky loves a good curry. So I reckon he'd be on. To be fair, Ricky wouldn't be making it, his wife would be making it. Ricky's wife, love her to bits, she is unreal, and she does a lot for Ricky. So I think Ricky would be focusing on the football and Ricky's wife would be the one cooking. So Ricky and Ricky's wife would make a good team. Ricky would be lecturing us on the football, Goldbridge and Ricky having a McTominay debate, and then I'd be having a good old chat to Mrs. Ricky, in the kitchen, helping her out. I know, now I'm going down the sexist route, aren't I, here? Women in the kitchen and the men talking football. I don't want to go down that route. Everyone can do everything they want to do, but yeah, Ricky's wife, I think, would be the one making the food. But thank you, everyone, for that. What should I make? Might do like I do a banging pasta bake, but is it good enough? Is it good enough for the United stand come dine with me? Jack Hoff says we should get Scalvini. And yeah, we've got all the super chats in. So now everyone keep voting. Absolutely love it. Keep your comments in. Steak. Can't go wrong with a steak. You cannot go wrong with a steak. Although, if you don't have your steak, the highest you can have your steak is medium. If you have your steak well done, I don't respect you. I don't respect you and I won't be serving it to you, because I don't understand how anyone can have a well-done steak. I don't get it. My stepdad, every time we go to a restaurant, can I have a steak very well done? So you just want to eat cardboard then? I don't understand it. I have my medium rare personally. I can understand the medium, but when you're getting into the well done category, just don't even bother turning up for tea at mine. Don't bother doing it. But anyway, let's get on with the show. That was on Jarrad Branthwaite. Get your thoughts in down below. And yeah, I don't think United will overpay on that deal, but it'll be interesting to see if Everton do drop the price for us. But on to the next little bit of the show that I wanted to talk about. And Rob Dawson again has said, as well as a centre-back, there are plans in place for Manchester United to sign a midfielder and a striker. Work has also been done to identify wingers who might be available, but sources say that the position is lower down the list of priorities. So, on that, I mean, Erik ten Hag told you this in his interview before the season ended, and a lot of people are questioning whether Ineos was actually planning with Erik ten Hag going into the summer transfer window, because there was obviously talk that they were going to sack him. But they have been planning with Erik ten Hag, and Erik ten Hag did mention, you know, we need a centre-back to replace Varane, we also need a midfielder and we need a striker. There are 3 priority positions, which also does alarm me as to why Elise is going to be probably one of our first signings. I get he's to replace Sancho and Greenwood, I understand that, but it's just whether Manchester United plunge into buying Elise before you even sell the Greenwoods and the Sanchos, because, you know, if you don't manage to sell them for a decent price, then you're in a little bit of a sticky situation where you've spent that money and you've not replaced the money that you spent on him. So it'll be interesting to see which way we go about that. But centre-back, I reckon Tadebo's basically nailed on, and we might get one on the free. Midfielder, the midfielder is to replace Casemiro. As Ben Jacobs said on the show this afternoon, it is nailed on that Casemiro is going to get an offer from Saudi Arabia. And in my opinion, I think he should go, and I think he will go. Varane looks like he's going to go to Saudi Arabia as well. There's potential that Casemiro and Varane could both be playing for the same team in the Saudi League next year. There's a concrete possibility that that could happen. Saudi apparently are looking to offer a package of 30 million euros plus bonuses. A lot of people are thinking it was going to be stupid prices. It's not going to be. You know, Casemiro hasn't had a good season, and I get the Saudi League is a very different league to the Premier League, but he hasn't. Everybody knows Manchester United want to get his wages off the books. Saudi would be stupid if they just came in and slapped on a 50 million price tag to Casemiro. I think Saudi Arabia come in and they say 30 million euros for Casemiro and we're taking his wages off the books. I think Sir Jim himself drives to Manchester United, picks up Casemiro and drops him off at the airport and says, thank you very much for your service. Give me that 30 million euros and the wage off the books. I think Man United would absolutely be buzzing with that, because if we didn't have Saudi Arabia and the Saudi League hadn't developed to the point it was at, we'd be stuck with Casemiro on, what was it, he signed a 5-year deal on 350 grand a week, when realistically we've had one good year out of him. And as much as Casemiro was a very, very, very important good player in his first year at Manchester United, unfortunately, you know, in his second year, he's been absolutely dire in certain games. He's been poor. He's been really, really poor. I've not seen a drop-off like it. And I know he did an interview saying you can't be a player of the year one year and then be the worst player the second year. But the realistic fact is that actually is what happened. Like, you were a really good player the first year, but the second year you've been massively poor. Apparently, Casemiro was disappointed he didn't get picked for the cup final. But again, I'm sorry, we saw exactly why he wasn't picked for the cup final. Because Amrabat was excellent and we looked better without him. Like, let's be honest, we did. And we didn't miss him in the slightest. Casemiro's been a liability all season. In a game against City where you can't afford to make any mistakes, it was the right call not to play him. And I think something happened. I don't think Casemiro suddenly got an injury before the FA Cup final to the point where he couldn't make the bench. I honestly don't. I think what happened was, this is just me speculating, I think Erik ten Hag dropped him, he wasn't happy about it, and there was probably a little bit of a falling out and therefore he weren't on the bench. That's what I think happened. But as much as it's been said, you know, Casemiro is a great character, he's got a great mentality, he's never had an issue with a manager in his life, which makes me question, you know, you've got to understand that you have been poor this year. It's not just a nailed-on fact that you're going to start a cup final. Maybe he feels like he was entitled to because he'd played out of position, centre-back for quite a few games and he's done his job for the team, but you're never entitled to put on a Manchester United shirt and play in the starting 11. You've got to earn that spot, and it was the right decision not to pick him. And honestly, looking back on it, as much as I respect Casemiro for his career because he's had a wonderful career, and the stuff he's won and what he's done in his career is brilliant, and he was one of the best centre defensive midfielders we've seen. But unfortunately, I don't think he's good enough to play for Manchester United anymore, and I've got to be honest, that deal in general was a really poor deal from Manchester United's side. The size of the contract, the size of the wages, everything about it it just was a poor deal in hindsight. It didn't have any future in it. And this is why Ineos are moving away from paying big money for 30-odd-year-olds that haven't got much longevity. We're looking towards signing younger players. That's what we're looking to do. So I think, like I said, for 30 million euros, Casemiro, drive him to the airport. I would absolutely do that and get the money for him and reinvest that back into the squad. Just getting his wages off the books is massive for Manchester United. But the question is who replaces Casemiro? Because Ben Jacobs spoke earlier on in the show and he said that Manchester United have a strong interest in João Gomez from Wolves. And I know a lot of you obviously watch a lot of Premier League football, and I've been watching João Gomez as well this season because there has been links to João Gomez. Brazilian as well as Casemiro, young player coming up the ranks, part of the Brazil squad. He looks like a really promising player. He really does. The only thing that worries me about João Gomez is, one, I think he's going to be expensive. I think Wolves would value him at around 60, 70 million, which I don't know if we can afford to go and spend. And two, his height. The height is a thing, and I know we shouldn't be heightist. Me, myself, I'm only 5'2.5", so I can't really speak. But at the same time, you know, in that role, you need some physicality. This is what the likes of, you know, the Man City do. They have Rodri there, proper physical. They've got a back four that are proper physical and can take the physicality of the Premier League. And don't get me wrong, I think João Gomez is a good player and I think he absolutely can handle the physicality of the Premier League. But I just worry about him in a midfield three with Bruno Fernandes and Kobbie Mainoo. Kobbie Mainoo, I think he's 6 foot, he said in an interview, but he's not the tallest of midfielders. Bruno Fernandes isn't the most physical of midfielders. Having João Gomez as your holding midfielder there, I just don't know if he's tall enough and got enough physicality for that. His duel winning is fantastic. He's a strong player, but in just terms of overall physicality, I don't know if he ticks all them boxes for us. But get in the comments what you think. A lot of people talking about Ederson from Atalanta. I think Ederson from Atalanta is a massively good shout. I honestly do, because, you know, strong, physical, done brilliantly for Atalanta this season. Obviously going to be cheaper as well. There's talks you can get him out of there for 40 million euros. Somebody who's on the list of Manchester United. So that's something to definitely think about. Get in the comments down below. Actually, let's run a quick poll. Would you rather get Ederson or João Gomez? I mean, Ben Jacobs was talking about Dewsbury Hall being an option, and not as a number 6. But then why would we need another number 8? We've got Kobbie Mainoo, we've got Mason Mount, we've got Bruno Fernandes. I don't see Dewsbury Hall being a priority for Manchester United this summer. But he keeps getting spoken about, and apparently he's someone that Ineos like. Obviously he fits the British thing. I'm not sure on that one personally. Get in the comments down below what you think. A lot of people talking about Ederson in the chat. Let me just go and have a look. Somebody said we talk about height, but look at Lisandro Martinez. I get that, but in the Premier League, I'm sorry, you can't have a team of a full team of people that don't have height. You need some height in your team. So McTominay gets picked, and a lot of people don't like it, but against City, his physicality and being able to use Onana's distribution, Scott McTominay winning the ball, bringing it down, and us winning the second ball, it massively helped us. It does help you. Harry Maguire, he's used for it as well, as being a target man. Height does matter. Height does matter. It really does. Not all over the pitch. Like Lisandro Martinez is a brilliant centre-back, and he's somebody who's disproved that notion. But in terms of a team, because it's a team game, you do need some height in there. I'm just looking at how tall Ederson is. 1.82 metres in feet. Oh, okay. Ederson is not as tall as I thought he was. Ederson on here, he's saying he's 5'9". I thought he was taller than that. I thought Ederson was taller than that, if I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, am I getting that right? Let me have a look how tall João Gomez is from Wolves really quickly. Height. Yeah, so he's shorter. He's 1.76 metres, which what is that in feet? That's 5'9". Wait, hang on a second. 1.76 metres in feet is... Oh no, 1.76 metres in feet is 5'7", which... Yeah, it's... For me, it's... Honestly, I know it sounds bad. It's like I'm on... You know, it's like you're on a dating website and you're like 6 foot over only, please, which... You know, each to their own preferences. But in the Premier League, you need strong midfielders, you need tall midfielders, and you need midfielders that complement each other. So that's just something, a little bit of something to think about. I'll be interested to see who we actually go for in that midfield position, because I honestly thought Ederson was a bit taller than that. But if Ederson's 5'9", you're looking at the height there and you're thinking, you know, off corners, off set pieces. The fact of the matter is, you look at Manchester City and Arsenal, teams that are dominating the league, their defensive line is built physically. You know, you look at the fact, you know, you've got Gvardiol or Aki playing left back, both big, tall players. You've got the centre-backs that are all big and tall. You've got Walker, who's physically strong. And then you've got in front of them Rodri, who's like a man mountain. And then you've got, at Arsenal, you've got Gabriel, who's tall, Chalobah, who's tall. You've got Ben White, who's a converted centre-back, playing it right back. And then you've got Declan Rice in front of them, who's tall as well. You need some height in your team. That's what the Premier League is very physical. So as much as people don't like it, I do think it is something that needs to be looked at and something that we should be looking at. But there's been no standout candidate for the number 6 role. So it'd be interesting. Just out of interest, I don't want to turn this into a show about height, but let me just have a little look here. Fofana from Monaco. Height. 1.85 metres in feet. Yeah, so Fofana from Monaco, 6 foot. So you're looking at somebody who there is, you know, passing that 6 foot mark can give you a little bit more physicality. Of course, you know, you're not going to look at a player and think, oh, the 1 inch below 6 foot, that means we can't buy them. Like, obviously, you've got to take into account all of the players' attributes. And Lisandro Martinez is a player who kind of disproves the notion about height. But in a team of 11 players, you do need height in that team. You need it for set pieces. You need it as a target man off, you know, to play different sorts of styles of football. For example, that game against Man City, that's why Scott McTominay was so crucial. So it's definitely something to think about. Let me see in the comments what you are saying, Ederson or João Gomez. Ederson has got 70% of the vote. Nikki Bebe says Kante disagrees. First of all, Kante wasn't a holding midfielder. Kante was a box-to-box midfielder. So, yeah, Kante was a brilliant midfielder, but he wasn't a holding midfielder. He's a box-to-box midfielder. And Chelsea had height in other areas of the pitch. So, Kante is one of the best, you know, midfielders I've seen in the Premier League. He was unbelievable. It's like playing with 2 extra players. But it doesn't fit into the conversation I'm having. Jack Palichuk says he'd be slightly more expensive, but Amadou Onana would be perfect, tall, physical and good on the ball. A lot of people like Amadou Onana. I can't make my mind up. Some games I watch Onana for Everton, I think, yes, bring him to Manchester United. You know, tall, physical, great on the ball, like you said. But for some games, I'm like, actually, you know, you're not what Manchester United need. You're actually not as good as what I thought you were. So I think Onana's quite hit and miss. Plus, he was getting benched a lot for Everton. And that worries me a little bit. AC Tracy says Amadou Onana is over 6 foot and Premier League proven. Ben Thornton says Spinazzola parting ways with Roma, a potential left back. I don't think we'll go for him, but it's a fair shout. Jack Hoff says, well done, is eating a rubber dinghy. Oh, well done. He's like eating a rubber dinghy. You're talking about the steak. I massively agree with you. Jack Clancy says, I heard only 115 people watch the Man City documentary. Tony Shannon says, Beth, you're a great presenter and I hope to see the United stand come down with me as much as I want Ten Hag to stay. I'll get on to Goldbridge about it. Jack Hoff says we should go and get Scalvini. I mean, Scalvini is an interesting one, but I don't think Manchester United will get him. He's somebody that we've scouted for sure, but I don't think Manchester United will get him. I've not heard much about him, but, you know, you never know. Targets do come in quickly sometimes, and you know, the domino effect of the transfer window, as Fabrizio Romano said, can often affect transfers. Last but not least, I just quickly wanted to talk about this last little section of the show, which I wanted to bring up, and this was Ben Jacobs on the United stand, and it was that Jean-Claude Blanc is offering arguments in favour of keeping Erik ten Hag, with Sir Dave Brailsford playing devil's advocate role. This is to ensure every viewpoint is thoroughly examined before they come to a final decision. And Ben Jacobs also says he thinks we could get a decision either tonight or tomorrow on Erik ten Hag, and as soon as they have that, the media will push it out. Ten Hag is imminently waiting, he wants a decision, and Manchester United have nearly made their decision. What I find really interesting is I just had an inkling. This is how I think it's going. I think the likes of Omar Barada, the likes of Claude Blanc are pushing for Erik ten Hag. That's how I see it. Do you want to know why I see it that way? Because guess what? Claude Blanc and Omar Barada have vast experience in football. They know how to run a football club. Omar Barada did an excellent job at it in the City Group, and Jean-Claude Blanc has done an excellent job at it at PSG and Juventus. How funny is it that the people that have had experience in football want to keep Erik ten Hag as the football manager of Manchester United, whereas Sir Dave Brailsford, who, by the way, I like his personality, I watched his interview with Sir Dave Brailsford, he's very successful in his field. He's very successful, but he's been successful in cycling. He's admitted himself that he doesn't know much about football. So if Sir Dave Brailsford, the one saying, you know, hang on a second, maybe we don't keep Erik ten Hag, maybe we do go for a different manager, and the people that have experience in football, like the Omar Barada and the Claude Blanc, are thinking to keep Erik ten Hag, I know who I'm going to trust on that decision, and it's going to be the figures that have had experience in football. So for me personally, if I'm making the decision on that board, and I know everyone's going to come to an agreement, and there's going to be pros and cons for each one. But if I'm Sir MJ Ratcliffe, I'm saying, do you know what? Jean-Claude Blanc, who has had experience in football, and I don't know if it's Omar Barada, that's literally just me kind of guessing and some of the insight I've been told, are thinking, hang on a second, why don't we give Erik ten Hag a chance? There doesn't seem to be many candidates out there, and let's invest into this manager. I'm going to be looking at it and thinking, I'm going to trust the people I've put in charge who have experience in football. So I honestly think tonight, and this is just a feeling, so if I'm wrong, don't say, Beth, you don't know what you're talking about, because it's generally just my opinion as a football fan. I think Erik ten Hag, it's likely he will stay at Manchester United, and I hope he does, but that's just my opinion. But look, everyone, thank you very much for getting in your opinions on the chat. Thank you very much for that. I'm just looking at the rest of the super chats. Amadou and Nana, yep, I've done all of them. And thank you for a brilliant show tonight, talking about the centre-backs, talking about Erik ten Hag, and just having a general discussion about where Manchester United are at. We're at the early stages of the transfer window where discussions need to be had, and it's very interesting that we will be signing a midfielder, but we don't have a clue who'll be going for. Me personally, Fofana, 25 million, would be a great signing. And then I'd also look to get somebody else as well, but I've not quite decided on the other figure. I need to do a little bit more research on that. But look, everyone, SK says next season could be a battle of the boards. Liverpool, Pep, we need a board. Yeah, exactly. That's another reason why you've got to keep Erik ten Hag in there. Go and send, you know, Mikel Arteta to the barbershop. Get him on the bald look as well. And we can have the battle of the boards at the top of the Premier League. But look, everyone, gonna love you and leave you here. Thank you for sticking with us through the 8 p.m. show and talking all things Manchester United. Before I go, I just quickly want to say again as well, if you want to get your clothing items at BoohooMan, make sure you go and click the link in the description or scan the barcode. Use the code GOALBRIDGE for an extra 10% or 40% site-wide. There's some brilliant stuff on there, such as this nice little sweatshirt that I'm wearing here. Go and shop your stuff, go and shop the gym gear, go and shop your airport outfits for the holiday, go and get your sets in, and make sure you go and do that by clicking the link in the description. Also, while you're there, hit a like on this video, get all your comments in down below, let me know your thoughts, and I will see you on the next one.